Hello, this is Dr. Katie from Craig Chiropractic and Kinesiology, and today I want to talk about health advice. Good advice, bad advice, and where you should get it. Now, there are many sources of advice out there, everything from friends, family, the internet, you name it. In this day and age, there are so many places that are trying to give you advice for your health, telling you what you should do, and where do you begin with that? Because that can get very confusing, that can be discouraging, what's a scam, what's truthful. So we just want to dive into that a little bit today. This is going to be kind of a crash course style, but things I just want you to know and consider so that you can stay safe, that you can advocate for your health, and that you can make wise decisions for yourself, okay? So let's dive into this. I actually want to start with a couple real life examples that have happened to just get us thinking a little bit, okay? And I want it to be food for thought. So the first example is based off of a real patient case that I've seen. Several years ago, I had a patient come in, elderly couple, and I had recommended through testing and everything we were doing with their care, I had recommended and put them on a specific supplement. I believe it was a type of herb. It was appropriate for them at the time. I made my diagnosis, treatment plan. There was a lot of valid reasons why we put them on this herb. So I send them home with this, with all of their instructions, everything they needed to know. And then I saw them for their follow-ups a couple weeks later. I asked them how it was going, and they told me that they were not taking the herb or the supplement. And I was like, oh, okay. May I ask why we're not taking that? And they told me it's because their grandkid told them not to. And I'm like, okay, what did your grandkid have to say? And they informed me that their grandkid was in school for natural health, in college for natural health, and they told their grandparents that they did not like the supplement and they should stop taking it. So the grandparents just stopped. So I'm trying to be respectful. I'm trying to ask questions. I'm trying to see, is there a concern about this herb? Is the person dealing with, a potential side effect or an undesirable effect? Do I need to adjust dosage? I'm trying to see where they're coming from. And all they kept just saying is, the info their grandkid gave them. So I'm like, oh, okay. What is your grandkid going to school for? And all they could tell me was natural health. They couldn't tell me what degree they were going for, what school they were going to. And to be fair, there is such a broad range. Just saying somebody's going for natural health, that could be anything from a 2-month online certification from a random website all the way up to a doctor's degree. There's everything from nutritionists, dietitians, acupuncturists, chiropractors, naturopaths, like health coach, natural health degree. That could be anything. The grandparents didn't have any idea what it was. They just knew it was a natural health degree. I'm just like, okay, that's good. And I'm like, okay, put that aside. What did they actually say about the supplement? Oh, they didn't say anything about the supplement. And I'm like, well, what was their objection to it? Why did they tell you to stop? They just told us they didn't like it. And I was like, is there a particular thing? Was it the ingredients they were concerned about? Did they have a research paper on it? Grandparents didn't have a clue. They're like, they just told us not to take it, so we're not taking it. I just want you to consider that example. Keep this story in mind as we continue on. I'm going to share one more story here. I guess this is a little bit of story time, then we'll dive into this. Another real example, back when I was an intern in chiropractic school, I was working under another doctor at the time, and we had a patient come in. Now this was a patient that was overweight, okay? That's just how they were. They were chronically inflamed. They had a lot of pain in their joints, their back, and you could just tell this person was inflamed and not in their best health. Now, this individual got good benefit from chiropractic care, but daily life was still a struggle just because of their current health state. Now, I will say this is not an individual that was interested in any lifestyle changes. They didn't want to exercise. They didn't want to change their nutrition or their daily habits. They just were not having it, not interested. And we were just trying to respect that and just help them the best we could. Every time we would see this patient, they would just complain about how inflamed and swollen they feel, how their joints hurt. And they finally asked my supervising doctor one day, they're like, Doc, what is one thing I can do at home to make myself feel better? I just need to feel better. And that is such a hard question, because as a doctor, there are so many things we would encourage you to do. So many good things. What's the correct answer? I mean, the thing is, my supervisor only had one shot, right? And they're like, okay, what is something that's relatively easy but would have the biggest impact? So basically, my supervisor advised this patient to go gluten-free for like a month. Okay, that's very reasonable. We know with more and more research, real clinical experience, that gluten is highly inflammatory, particularly gluten in the United States. If it's GMO gluten, that can be a whole discussion for another video, but just know that gluten is inflammatory. If you are somebody that is overweight, if you are somebody that deals with chronic inflammation, cutting out gluten temporarily may be beneficial, okay? So, recommended this patient go gluten-free for a few weeks to a month, all right? So patient's like, okay, thank you for the information. Patient leaves, right? It's, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe the month after, they come in for their follow-up, and they come in for their next appointment, and they're just complaining like, doc, my joints are just as inflamed, I don't feel any better, I'm not doing good, all this stuff. And so we asked them, well, how did it go going gluten-free? Oh, I didn't go gluten-free. And we're like, oh, why not? We talked about that last time. Patient told us that like the day after they saw us in clinic, they were at their work, they must have worked at a school or something. They said that they happened to run across their school nurse, and they told the school nurse about it, and the school nurse told them that that was a myth, that they did not have to eat gluten-free, that only celiacs have to eat gluten-free. So the nurse flat out told them to ignore what us as their doctors and providers told them. So the patient believed the nurse over what we told them in clinic, did not go gluten-free, they felt just as bad, no better, and had no improvement. Just want you to consider that. Consider these two stories, right? Do you think that these individuals were given good health advice? Do you think that they got information from good sources? Okay, so food for thought, let's dive in. The number one thing I always say is, if you're gonna get advice from somewhere, I don't care if it's a website, if it's your best friend, if it's your grandkid, a nurse, doctor, whoever it is, mom, cousin, cook, whoever it is, if they're giving you health advice, hey, take this supplement, don't eat this, do this type of exercise, ask the question, who is giving the advice? You should know who it is. Don't just take advice from, a random website like, oh, the internet told me to eat all this cinnamon. It's like, okay, where on the internet? Was it a government website? Was it a doctor's website? Was it from someone that knew something about cinnamon? Like, just ask the basic question, who? Okay, don't ever blindly take information from someone. Okay, so identify who they are. Like, my grandkid gave me advice, okay? Next question, what are their qualifications? Is your grandkid qualified to give you health advice? That's a fair question. If someone on the internet is telling you to take a supplement, are they qualified to tell you? Like, is it just their opinion, or do they actually have training and real world experience? There's a big difference between somebody just sharing their opinion because they read some random book, or somebody that actually has real life experience with the condition, researching it and helping treat it, okay? So you can ask their qualifications. Now, qualifications can range from things like, okay, do they have a doctor's degree? Do they have actual education? Or, qualifications can come from real life experience. Like, for example, there could be a stay-at-home mom, but she has spent years raising a child with disabilities, okay? So she's done a ton of research. She also has a lot of real hand experience in life of foods to feed them, activities to avoid, things you can do. So she would be a valid source versus somebody that just read a random book and they want to just share their opinion. You see the differences there? So always ask who is giving the advice and what are their qualifications, because some people are just frankly not qualified to give you health information. Not everyone that gives you information is qualified. I'm just going to say that. In our previous story about that nurse, with all due respect, this is nothing against nurses, but what that nurse said about only celiac should be gluten-free, nobody else, that is actually false information. Celiacs, of course, should be gluten-free, but there's more research, there's more evidence actually showing us, and real clinical data showing us that there are benefits for other people to go gluten-free. And guess what? It does not hurt you to go gluten-free if you're just doing it for like a month or something. There's no negative side effects. So what she gave our patient was completely false, misleading information, and it was also highly professionally disrespectful at minimum. Okay, so we got it. Who's giving the advice? Are they qualified? Okay, and then can they verify or back up what they're saying? For example, with the grandparent example, with their grandkid telling them not to take a supplement, they never asked their grandkid for verification. They never said, oh, why shouldn't I take this supplement, sweetie? Is there a concern on the dosage? Is it the quality? Is there a research paper? Follow up. If someone's like, oh, don't take that, just ask the question, okay, why shouldn't I take this? Is there a reason why? Or if someone's saying, take this supplement, just ask, okay, what is it, why? And see, do they give you real evidence? Okay, next thing, you want to know, do they have real world experience? Okay, there's a big difference, again, from somebody that just watched a video online or somebody that just read a book versus somebody that's actually worked real life with this condition or this supplement, okay? You know, there's a difference between those that get their degrees in person and actually do in-person internships under seasoned doctors and professionals. That is very different than someone that just got an online degree and they just watched a bunch of videos. Those two things are not the same, and the qualifications and experience are just not the same. So somebody that's actually worked with this, like again, what about parents that have a child with a disability? They have so much real life experience with this versus somebody that just read about it in a class. So that's another thing to consider. Let's see. Next thing, you know, always ask if someone is trying to give you advice, who are they working for? Like if this is a video online telling you, you need to get this essential oil, you need to get this supplement, is the person telling you this working for a company that sells those? And are they getting a commission if you buy this product? Okay, I am not saying that all multi-level marketing companies are scams or that they're bad. I'm not saying that, but I'm just telling you to be aware, okay, of those things. And unfortunately, in those situations, some people can be biased because if they're getting a commission off of what they sell you, you just want to make sure that what they're sharing with you is actually something that's beneficial for you. And know that to get good health, to get good products, you don't necessarily have to go through a multi-level marketing company to do so. And if they are presenting themselves that they are the only way, then I would be a little weary. Okay, just some tips and advice. Next thing, I always ask people or recommend is to not blindly follow one doctor or one practitioner. Okay, this is where some people will find a doctor, again, practitioner, they have a lot of good products, good teachings, but they will blindly follow them. They will not listen to anyone else. They will not get information from any other source. They will just devote themselves to this doctor, or again, one person, one source. And you know, in healthcare, you really should be willing to look at all the options, consider both sides of the argument, and finding the most balanced, best answer. And what I've learned from some of my mentors and stuff is to learn from a variety of different practitioners, take the gold nuggets from them, and you know, really sort through this, because so many people have good benefits that you can learn from. There's no one person that's like God that knows it all, okay? So be wary and wonder, are you just following one person, or are you, you know, very objectively considering a bunch of different sources? So just keep that in mind. Now that being said, well, I would say don't just blindly follow one without considering other factors. I definitely would recommend that, you know, if you have a qualified, trustworthy, seasoned and trained health professional that's working with you, that is so much more valuable than a random video on the internet, okay? Like for example, when I work with my patients, I can actually assess you in person. I can actually check your body language, your vitals. I can do everything here, and I'm gonna be able to give you a more accurate perspective here than someone on the internet that has never been in person with you and just has a generic video. Okay, you might get good information from that, but at the end of the day, it's always good to take it back to somebody that's actually in person with you, that knows you, can read your body language, can go over your health with you. Okay? Now, I hope you can find a practitioner like that. Maybe in an upcoming video, we'll talk about finding practitioners so you can find someone that is trustworthy. All right, we're coming down to the end here. Always be careful when things sound too good to be true. There is a big trend right now for wearing patches that are things like nano patches, stem cell. New one I just heard about was kind of this infrared, things like that as well, patches. They sound scientific, they sound really cool. Some of these technologies are just too good to be true, and people will dump a lot of money, get these things. Maybe some people get benefit, and if you do, great, but others get either no benefit or, at worst, the patches actually cause a reaction. So just again, do your research into something, read reviews, and again, if something sounds just way too good to be true, like it's magical, I was dying, I took this one supplement and now I'm fine, like that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay, so just be objective with that. Another thing I like to just say is, how is the person sharing with you coming across? Like, are they kind and caring? Because there's many people that are just very aggressive, they're rude, they're over passionate, and frankly, that is not somebody I'm gonna trust my health with. You know, your health is a precious thing and not something to just be willy-nilly with or mess with. So if somebody's just like in your face, like you need to be taking this supplement, you need to be doing this, and if you don't, you're failing, that's not somebody I would listen to. I would much rather listen to somebody that's gentle with you, that explains to you, that's like, hey, you're doing this one thing. Like, you know those perfumes you're wearing? Actually, we found out through research that those perfumes are very toxic and they're actually affecting your hormones. So I'm really going to recommend that you change those. Here is another essential oil option that's safer, that you can still enjoy. Do you see the difference there of how that was gentle, how that explained something? We had facts, we had verification, we had alternatives, but I wasn't yelling at you. I wasn't calling you names. You know, you should be able to trust the person that's getting you information. Okay, so that's the other thing, avoiding scare tactics. Whenever somebody is using this major scare tactic, like if you don't do this program, you're like gonna die. Just beware. Okay, you know, I always want to level with my patients. I don't want to sugarcoat things, or, you know, if something is really bad, I let them know, like, hey, this is serious. We need to work on this, but here's our options, okay? Versus, if you don't do this, you're going to die. Those are two different things to be aware of. But I just shared this today so that you can have better understanding, take care of your health, and, you know, just try to avoid bad health advice, okay? Well, if you have any thoughts please drop them below, and we'll talk more about them soon. All right, thank you.